Hey folks, this is Philip with the Everyday Fighter podcast. One of the things that I think about in terms of when we're doing martial arts, we're doing self-defense, sparring, is the idea of cause and effect, right? And a lot of times when we're learning new techniques, it's kind of that way, right? Where say, the cause is this person is coming at you with a knife this particular way, right? So that's the cause. The effect is now you have to do this particular move, right? Or if you do this, then this. And it can be useful to see it in that way, especially if you're thinking just sequentially, step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of a thing. But one of the things that I found to be useful is kind of a different way of looking at it. It's not so much if this, then that, or cause and effect. It's just that whatever you do, it has consequences. So a lot of times students will ask me, is it the right way? The way I'm doing it, is it right or wrong? And a lot of times I'll tell them, I don't say right or wrong. I don't say never or always. I try not to anyway. Right? I try to stick with more of like concepts of it. And one of the concepts is that whatever you do, just know that there are consequences to it. And I use that terminology on purpose, with real intent, because when I say instead, well, if this, then that, or if I say it in terms of this is what you do, then this is going to happen. If this, then that. Cause and effect, right? It's very sterile. It's very kind of like programming is kind of like that, right? There's no, it's very logical, right? But when it comes to hands-on martial arts or competition or self-defense, there's another factor that comes into play, and that, aside from just the physical and the mental kind of aspect of it, and that is the emotional part of it, right? When I say, that's fine, do what you're going to do, just know that there are consequences. The context, the idea behind consequences is very heavy, right? The connotation of consequences it's much heavier than if this and that. So what I'm trying to do there is engage people's emotions in there, like consequences. Like, you mean if I throw my hook with my thumb in versus thumb down, that there's some gravity to it, and that may or may not be the case. It's just that when I say there's consequences, it just means that you just got to think about it, right? There are real, there's something real that's going to happen as a result of that. Now, that the consequence may be that you do what you intended to do. The other side of that, if you look at it in terms of a scale, right, a spectrum, on one side is, hey, you get your desired result. On the other side, you get a horrible result, and you kind of fall somewhere in the middle there. Yeah, something is going to happen. But when I say that, just know that there are some consequences to what you do, that it tends to make them think, because now there's like this is a bit heavier than I thought of, just like, oh yeah, this is step 1, step 2, very logical, right? And that's something that we can apply to our everyday lives too, right? Where we try to keep things very if this, then that, right? Or we ask advice from people of like, okay, well, this is my situation. What do you think I should do, right? And a lot of times we can fall into, okay, well, keeping it logical, keeping it such that, okay, if I do this with my kid, then this is going to be the result. But it's much messier than that, right? It's never as clean as math. So even and especially with your off the mat life, right? Think about it in those terms of, hey, whatever you do, there's going to be some consequences. This is Philip with the Everyday Fighter podcast. We'll talk to you next time.